We begin tonight with Virginia Democratic Congressman Suhas Subramanyam, who joins me now. He's viewed some of the unredacted documents, joins us from Capitol Hill. Congressman, thank you for being with us. Now that you've seen at least some of these unredacted documents, give us a sense of what it is you've seen.
You know, there's a lot of redactions that were not necessary, that are redacting people who are not victims in any way. There's also a lot of redactions of investigators themselves and FBI and DOJ personnel. I'm not quite sure why they felt they needed to do that. And just generally, they still were managed to not protect victims in this process. So and from that sense, I think it's disappointing. But the bigger disappointment is that documents that we've been looking for and asking for are either still redacted. I went into the room looking for documents that even the DOJ itself wrote, and they are still redacted in the unredacted document list. And then other documents are being withheld from us. 2.5 million documents are being withheld. So it's hard to do an investigation when someone has the evidence and won't give it to you.
When you say there are names that are redacted that shouldn't be redacted, first off, how do you know who they are? And when or if or will you and other members reveal who those people are? Could you do that without getting in legal trouble?
We could do that. I think one of the issues, first of all, some members have already done that on the House floor. I think if you go on the House floor, you're protected in some ways legally,
Right.
but in other ways, you know, there's some issue of women who are in Jeffrey Epstein's sphere and who may claim to be victims themselves. I think that's debatable in a few instances. There's other instances of women who provided Jeffrey Epstein victims, and it's unclear to me why they are considered victims, but there's more digging that certainly we want to do before we reveal names. I think in other cases, though, there's simply documents missing or still redacted, and these include the draft indictments. These include witness statements, other things that even the victims themselves are looking for and are helping us work backwards to try to find those things. But we're not getting all the information. That's the reality. And so we're going to have to continue to push, continue to demand transparency from this administration.
Some of your colleagues call it a cover-up based on what you've seen. Is it that, or is it sloppy work amid the millions of documents that were dumped on a handful of Justice Department officials who had to quickly figure out what could be publicly released and what should be held back?
I think it's both, because you look back to last January where this administration was thumping its chest and talking about how they would have the files ready to release. And then they claimed that they were on Pam Bondi's desk in March and claimed that they'd been redacted and are ready to release. And then all of a sudden, President Trump got to see some of the files and didn't like what he saw. And so they started stonewalling us. So we've had a subpoena since last August. We've had a law that President Trump had to sign himself back in December, and they violated all of those things repeatedly. So how do you not call it a cover-up? And certainly the redactions in this case were sloppy. They were not handled well. But I think it's more than that. I think this administration is stonewalling us and does not want people to find the whole truth.
What did you make of Secretary Lutnick's explanations today? It did seem like he was perhaps a bit remorseful, or almost like someone who had been caught saying one thing when in fact the emails revealed something else. Was that sufficient, or has he got to go through this again?
Well, another way of saying what he did before was he lied. He lied about his association with Jeffrey Epstein, and now he's telling us a different story. Are we supposed to believe him this time? To me, it's clear that the only way to find out his association with Jeffrey Epstein is to release all of the files and then do our own investigation where we can interview witnesses, including him, and put him under penalty of perjury before a committee. That's what I'd like to see. And honestly, given his association with Epstein, I think a lot of my colleagues and myself think he should resign at this point. That's what's happening in Europe. And what message are we sending in the United States when in Europe people are losing their titles, losing their jobs, but in the US there's no accountability? Certainly not for this administration or anyone in it.
And real quick, seeing the documents, calling for better access to them, raising questions about the Justice Department's handling them is one thing. What does Congress do next in this realm to either learn more, to seek justice, to hold people accountable?
Well, we have some key witnesses this month we're going to talk to. Les Wexner helped bankroll a lot of Jeffrey Epstein and his lifestyle. He was a key client, and he shows up in many of the documents that I've seen. And then the executors of the estate, we're going to be talking to them as well. We're going to get production from the banks and financial institutions. The victim said that if we follow the money, we'll find a lot. So there is a lot more to investigation, and I know President Trump wants this to go away for some reason. And I would just say to him and to other people who want this to go away that we're just getting started.
And you're talking to President and Secretary Clinton as well later this month as part of this.
We are, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Congressman Subramanyam from the Commonwealth of Virginia, thank you for spending a few minutes with us explaining what you've seen. We appreciate it.